The interesting thing about love is that love feels like an experience, but love is actually the cessation of experience in the way that we think it is. So usually we associate experience to be, I am experiencing something. It's an experience because I experience it. And there's always this like three-way channel. There's an I, there's a perceptual faculty, and then there's the experience. So there's I, and then there's hearing, and then there's sound. There's I, and there's seeing, then there's seeing, the thing you see. And that's usually how we verify experience. But the experience of love is not a verifiable experience. It's actually the dissociation, or the dissolution is a better way of saying it, of experience, the experience of separation. So in other words, it's the experience of the cessation between I, perception, and perceived, I, sense faculty, and the thing my sense faculty sees. And it doesn't mean that the world disappears, because we're so ingrained to believe that the dissolution of separation comes with some sort of phenomenal change, when it doesn't. Phones still look like phones, shapes still take the same shape. It's just that the quality with which we experience the same experiences changes, and the you could say it's the way we see changes, the thing we see doesn't change. And so what this basically means is that unconditional love is about the capacity to surrender your individual identity. True unconditional love doesn't come from an I that thinks it's separate from the world, that gets this some sort of unconditional love. It's the ability to die. And this is the most underspoken of thing that I've seen in the paradigm of spirituality and non-duality, is that the non-dual traditions, they don't emphasize this point. The non-dual traditions that we commonly hear about, typically the ones that talk about it, don't necessarily talk about this aspect of the path as with emphasis, purely because the aspect of the path that requires knowledge is the one that's more charming, it's the one that's more appealing, it's the videos I've made that have the most views, you see, that just says it all. So what we recognize is that the path of knowledge has to be accompanied with the path of wisdom. The path of knowledge alone is literally the path of, it's going to sound extreme, but it's the path of evil. You know, it's when I say it's the path of evil, it's like, it's the path of narcissism. Like, the purpose of knowledge is for the lack of the dissolution of separation, which is love. So what happens is people can follow the path of love and not gain any insight, and then still recreate separation because of the intellect. And people can also follow the path of knowledge and not gain any insight because they're not willing to surrender themselves to love. To surrender yourself to love is kind of like being willing to die. A truly open heart on this path is a willingness to surrender your individuality. It's basically the same thing as saying, I am ready to die. I am willing to give up everything in order for love. I am willing to surrender myself to God. I am willing to die. It all boils down to that, a willingness to die. You can either find that willingness to die from a process of understanding, or you can find that willingness to die out of just a deep, deep devotion to truth. It doesn't matter which side it comes from, but it's bound to come from somewhere. And so we can find ourselves believing that we are free when we're still holding on to an individual identity and an unwillingness to die. So the weird thing is that this sense of like willingness to die for the truth and for the sake of love is kind of like something that most people who take the path of knowledge never find. They don't. They think they find it, but they never actually kind of get there. It's kind of like bypassed in a way. So we kind of want to understand that sometimes it's also possible that we can bypass the willingness to die for truth or to die for love with knowledge, with thinking that, well, there's no I to die, so how can I die? You miss out on the zest and the freedom that comes with the capacity to know that if you needed to, you'd be willing to let it all go. You know, and now this is not, I cannot stress this enough, this is not some kind of like self-harm type of love. This is a true willingness to be taken into God. It's a true willingness to be surrendered into the absolute in all sense of the word. And there's a zest that comes with that. There's a passion for life that comes with that, because it means that we're fully willing to live. Most people aren't fully willing to live. They're not. They're willing to think, they're willing to talk, they're willing to, portray that they're willing to live, but they're not really willing to live. You can't be willing to live if you're not willing to die. This is the craziest thing. It's as simple as that. If you're not willing to die, you're that very much not willing to live. If you're fully willing to die, you're fully willing to live. Willing to live means, in essence, this is a poetic way of saying it, so don't, take this literally. It is like God has full access to your body in order to do everything it wants to do. It's kind of like that. It's like there's no individual sense, a sense of individuality, so God gets to express full personality. Most people think, well, if there's no individuality, there's no sense of being an individual, no belief in being an individual. I'll act like a non-individual. I will behave like a non-individual. It's not true. In fact, your personality will become enhanced. If you're funny, you'll be funnier. If you're quiet, you'll be quieter. You see, if you're naturally quiet, right? Not if you're quiet because you're shy and you're worried about being seen. But if you are naturally loud and you are quiet and you're naturally, expressive, you will be more expressive. And it's all down to your level of devotion to truth, which is your devotion to God, which is the devotion to yourself. You can think of it in whatever way you please. It doesn't make a difference. So your willingness to die is parallel to how free you will be on this path. It's just plain and simple as that. It's not down to how enlightened you are, how much realizations you've had, how much knowledge you've attained, how deep your understanding is. Your understanding can be very deep. But if you're not willing to surrender your individuality, if you're not willing to die for truth, if you're not willing to die for love, if you're not willing to die for God, then, there's no hope for you. And that's fine, because it's a path you're willing to take. If you're willing to take the path that you want, it's the path that you want. So who cares? I don't care. If that's the path you want, it's the path you want, you see? If you want the other path, well, then this is kind of the way, The beauty of it is that you don't actually die. So you're not actually going to die, which is the paradox of it all. It's kind of like having a belief that, if you do this, then this will happen, and then you're okay, I'll do it. And then it doesn't actually happen. It's like kind of like walking off the cliff that had the glass floor the whole time, or walking off the cliff that had a net. In fact, it doesn't even have a net. There's no drop. You see what I mean? It is a glass floor, an invisible floor. You don't really drop off something. So it's really this sense of genuine devotion to truth, which is devotion to love, which is devotion to God, that gives you this genuine passionate interest in life. And that's where compassion comes from. Compassion is then your ability to live in all realms of experience, all octaves or all paradigms, with full ability to embrace it without getting lost in it. So some people, for example, let's take a spiritual teaching. Some teachings are, for example, unwilling to do certain things or say certain things because it might convince someone of something that they don't think is true, or they don't want to address a certain situation because it's fundamentally true. If someone believes they're suffering, they bypass it with, well, who is there to suffer? There's no one there to suffer, and things like this. Now, sometimes that's a genuine thing that you might want to say, but sometimes it's not, and it's used as a knowledge base to bypass someone having the problem. So this is called a lack of compassion. It just means that intelligence isn't fully matured yet. Compassion is the highest form of intelligence. It's the highest form of intelligence, the highest form of wisdom. You could say if wisdom is the intelligence of love, compassion is the highest form of intelligence, which in essence is the same thing. And this intelligence allows us to embrace realities. So think about it. If you want experiences, you're going to have realities. Like if you want to play a game, the reality of a game is that there's rules, there's people, and you can't do certain things. If I play football, I don't touch it with my hands. If I play golf, I don't kick it with my foot. It's things like this, right? These are realities, little micro realities, fractal realities. And this whole universe is a fractal reality. There's obviously universes other than this and experiences other than this. So how do you get to enjoy those experiences without suffering? Well, you learn the ability to embrace it, not bypass it. You can live in it and you can bypass it. This isn't a path of love or compassion. It's a path of still separation. You're still avoiding aspects of the world in order to be liberated from it. This type of intelligence is full embracive. So it's kind of like playing out the character that you are to its maximum capacity without believing you are the character you're playing. So in reference to like watching a movie, it's like watching a movie, but not believing you're the character and being fully invested in the movie. So like imagine that you're watching a movie that isn't just sights and sounds, it's also sensations, tastes, smells. It's the full shebang. And you live it. And it's the closest you get to life because it is life itself. So we are literally living out God's expression, and we want to fully invest our energy into it. So think about it. Most people on the path of knowledge alone, they still are not investing all their energy into the world because the world is still an illusion. We don't like illusions on this path. We want reality. We want truth. So we disregard the illusion of the world. This is not the path of love, and it's not the path of compassion. Compassion is intelligence. It's cool to be loving and compassionate. Let me remind you, the path of love is a very important path. Most people forget that. They forget all about it because they just want to remove their suffering, or they just want to get the right knowledge to then not have to suffer anymore. It's like, hang on a minute, what is important to you? What is a genuine soul value, right? When it all boils down to it, what do you care about? Do you forget to ask yourself these questions? Or do you feel like it's not important because you're a separate self, so who cares about what the separate self wants? Do you see how bypassing that is? You see, it's so valuable to actually ask yourself the question, do I actually want love? Like, do I care about caring? Do I want my life to have meaning and purpose? And do I want to express this with others? You know what I mean? It's like, well, no, others aren't there. It's like, wow, how far have we come from truth to believe that we can bypass this understanding with the others aren't there, so I won't express love. It doesn't make, what? It is so crazy to me. So let's balance the scales a little bit. We've had a lovely dose of the path of knowledge. We've had lovely doses of the path of love, which didn't contain knowledge, which then left people devoting themselves to God for infinitum as a separate entity. Let's find the harmony with this. Let's find the balance between love and knowledge, the path of devotion, the path of jnana. Why not? What harm will it do to you? So remind yourself what this is about. This is about love. This is about genuine love, which is in essence God, which is in essence the ability to surrender your individuality to something greater. Once you do that, you have full access to you. Before that, you don't have full access to you. You've got like a percentage of access because half of your experience is filtered through separation. Separation is the belief that love basically doesn't exist. That's pretty much what it is. I have a free community. The link for that is in the description, where I do free calls every single week. If you'd like to join, I'd love to have you there. It's a group of amazing people. I'm sure you'll be welcomed with open, loving arms. If the path of love resonates with you, if combining that with the path of knowledge resonates with you, I really, really would love to see you there. So have a beautiful day. Take care.